good. Nick, welcome to the Scrunch Creator Economy Show. It's so nice to have you.
It's good to be here.
And yeah, I'm so excited to share your story. We were just talking before we hit the big record button, and we met in a past life many years ago, but I'm so stoked to have you on the show and catch up about what you've done and what you're up to. So maybe that's a good jumping off point. Let's talk about your current business, Kaleidoscope, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm super excited to reconnect. I feel like I blinked and it was 4 years.
Oh yeah. What's happened in the last few years? Who knows?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, no. So I mean, the quick about me is my name is Nick. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kaleidoscope. I've spent the last 15, 16 years or so based in LA, primarily focused in advertising technology, so building solutions and technology for brands to better target their audiences on digital and social media, which is why I kind of moved into the influencer marketing space around 6-7 years ago, is kind of take all of the learnings and knowledge that I know about how agencies and brands are buying programmatic media using data and sort of validating and using analytics, and how can we use the influencer data that we're getting from these platforms to kind of leverage influencer marketing in a similar way. Obviously Scrunch does that really in an amazing programmatic way, but back then it was sort of really new and we were trying to build that. So that was kind of my foray in influencer marketing in advertising in general. But from a personal standpoint, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a Make-A-Wish kid.
Wow.
I've been a part of the Make-A-Wish family ever since they sent me to Disneyland when I was 3. But for the last 8 years, I've been really involved in the Make-A-Wish Greater Los Angeles chapter here. And I'm on their advisory board and do a lot of stuff with them. And at the beginning of COVID, right around February 2020, March 2020, when everything started to look like it was going to shut down, no more in-person events, kind of the first thing I thought of was, what's Make-A-Wish going to do now that they can't do in-person events? Where are they going to generate revenue? Not only them, but most nonprofits generate around 85 to 90% of their revenue from in-person events. So like, what is this sector going to do? And being in advertising and understanding that brands are more and more focused on cause marketing and trying to figure out ways to be more aligned with values and in cause-based organizations, I knew that there was an opportunity to bring them in, but all marketers, all brands need some level of analytics and insights into where their dollars are going, and what's the impact to my brand, where's the brand ROI, is there any insight into what my dollars actually did for the cause. Like, there was just not a lot of connectivity tissue. And I also knew that the influencer marketing space at that time was still really it's still really young, but at the 2.5 years ago or whatever, there's a lot of creators that are they have a platform and they want to do good and they want to broadcast good, but they don't necessarily want to search out the opportunities they would like the opportunities brought to them. And so I thought, interesting, if I can bring in brands to do more partnerships with nonprofits by giving them better analytics, and then also bring in influencers that have value and vision alignment to amplify what those partnerships are doing, then there can be a scalable, repeatable opportunity that brings more attention and more dollars, quite frankly, into the ecosystem. And so that was the genesis of Kaleidoscope. We built a platform that helps match these 3 stakeholders where there's value and vision alignment, and then we facilitate the campaigns and measure what we call the double ROI, return on investment for the marketer, reach, engagement, awareness, those sorts of things, and also return on impact for the cause-based organization, and really understand, like, did that campaign drive new donations, new registrations, new visitors, like all the main KPIs for a cause-based organization. We look at it like holistically in a big report, and then all stakeholders can get that analytics and that transparent reporting to really understand, how do we scale this for our brand, or how do we scale this for our organization from a cause-based perspective, and figure out new and repeatable ways to do it. And so that's really where Kaleidoscope started, and the genesis of it. I mean, 2 years into it now, since we've started, we've become kind of this 3-pillared, what I call mission delivery platform, where we support not only the management and the measurement of social impact, but also the logistics and actually helping nonprofits deliver on their mission using data and using partnerships to execute that. So that's a long-winded way of saying hi, I guess.
I love it so much. That's absolutely incredible. And what I'm really interested in is the fact that you bring together 3 parties. So typically we see, platforms or agencies bring together the brand and the influencer, and they collaborate, on some level of marketing campaign. And so when we talked about social impact, I was expecting you to say that you just brought the cause and the influencer together, but you actually bring a brand as well. Do you have like an example of how that actually works? Like an example of a campaign that you've run that kind of illustrates that?
Yeah, absolutely. So early on in 2021, I think we did one of our first ever like streaming campaigns where we actually brought on a couple of gaming influencers, Twitch influencers,
Cool.
and I think it was like 12 or so influencers that essentially had dedicated one of their streams throughout the week to do a charity stream. So essentially, like, they stream for 5, 7, 8, 10 hours sometimes, but they wanted
Oh,
to make
wow.
sure that they dedicated that particular stream to talking about the charitable cause that we had brought in, that they were aligned with. And then what we also did, because there's so much right eyeballs and impressions to be had during those streams, we brought in a sponsor or a corporate partner to not only sort of underwrite the opportunity with with the cause partner, and actually gave product to the influencers, one for themselves and one to raffle off. So there was like an interesting
Oh,
integration
cool.
and
Yeah.
charitable opportunity to really create like authentic integration and engagement between the corporate partner. I think it was a shoe partner, the streamers, and the nonprofit. So I think what we find, and the reason why I think we found success, and I know you know this in your bones, having done this for so long, like authenticity is the only thing that matters. So like if the cause isn't authentic and not known by the influencer's audience, and the brand doesn't have any sort of like real authenticity with the cause that they're supporting and the influencer that they're partnering with, none of it works. And so that's why it's like really important to bring in all sides to really
Yeah.
make sure that it makes sense.
I love that. That's awesome. And I are really interested because you mentioned Twitch and gaming influencers. I mean, when we hear influencer marketing, or creators, as we're saying these days,
Sure.
everyone just thinks about Instagram, right? Like everyone just goes product placement on Instagram. And I feel like that's why everyone's a little bit over it. So I love that you actually said, we used Twitch. So talk to me about, alternative channels, what's going on in Twitch land, TikTok land. Like, is
Sure.
that, a real opportunity for brands or causes to get involved with?
Yeah, I mean, here's what's interesting is we have a philosophy that anybody is an influencer, meaning that I may have 100, right? Well, because I have
Yeah.
100 followers on Instagram, and I might suggest a book to my 100 followers, and 10 or 20 of those people may buy that book. I now have influence over those people, right? So everybody can be influential, and we've done campaigns where we have hired influencers who are really involved in a cause, and they have 10, 20, 50,000 followers on Instagram and have posted about it. And they have actually performed worse than board members who have posted it on LinkedIn
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
driving registration. And
Yeah.
that's it. They're influencers in their own right too. So we kind of, in cause marketing and social impact, we kind of flip the concept of creator or influencer on its head, and really just talk about like everybody has a sphere of influence,
Yes.
and everybody should use it. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're looking at. And it has to align. I mean, there are causes that are 100 years old that have a demographic that is consistently donating in a certain way. They might be better placed to do influence integrations on Facebook, which is kind of a strange thing to say in influencer marketing, but Facebook might be better compared to something else. So it really just depends on, again, like the community, how authentic we can get people to be influential, and understanding that everybody has influence, and how do we leverage their influence in the most impactful way.
I love that. So what I'm hearing as well is really understanding, the customer and where the community, you said the word community, so where they are and how you can actually identify influencers that reach that correct community, rather than, like you say, going for the big shiny object, million follower influencers, and it may not land and you spent a lot of money versus actually going out and uncovering, where are these people, where are the people that actually support the cause, and focusing in the research there first.
You absolutely nailed it. I mean, we use sort of like the art and science approach, where we can clearly identify in some sort of automated or programmatic way a good list of 100 or 200 or so influencers that sort of meet on paper some parameters that we would want to look for. Maybe have mentioned some keywords, but then we kind of have to put some art behind it and really look at those creators, really do an in-depth understanding of their community and the content that they talk about, and how aligned when they talk about the particular cause is it, and how well it's received. And that's sort of our our proprietary art and science mix of how we get the right people to work. And it's really like, whether they're creators, you consider creators or influencers. I think in Southeast Asia, in some of the markets we work with, they're KOLs or key opinion leaders, right? Like it doesn't, what we call them doesn't necessarily really matter. It's all about how do we pull communities together around a cause and do it in the most efficient way possible. And by efficient, I mean, it's really like, how can we get the most people to move behind something? Not necessarily cost efficient, though that helps, but it's really like, how do we leverage a community so that 1 and 1 equals 4 or 5 or 6? So that's kind of our methodology in terms of selection and integrations.
Yeah. And I'm really interested in the, art and science comment as well, because I kind of feel like, just thinking back to different interactions I've had with different brands and agencies, and I've heard complaints of people that use some of the like automated campaign platforms where they just put up a brief, a bunch of influencers kind of get returned and they're getting lackluster results versus, you're really sitting down and strategizing, where are these communities? Yes, there's a bit of efficiency in terms of, okay, we roughly know the parameters of the influencers or creators we want to work with, but now we're going to actually apply the art, which is, finding the people that really will resonate with the cause. Like, how important do you think that is for a brand to sit down and create a strategy versus, an automated campaign system?
I'm biased, but I mean, I feel like that's the only way we're going to see real scale in the creator economy moving forward, without having some sort of redundancy of like this, what would be terrible to have happen in the influencer marketing space moving forward is to have it turn into an iStock or a like a sort of like a templated content platform that people are just hiring random creators to create content, and that's all you really see. There needs to be a lot more, like, our process, we feel that we've developed over the last 2 years, it could definitely be applied just to straight ed influencer marketing. I think, like, if they brought us in and they were launching a new makeup line or a new clothing line, we'd probably be pretty successful. But I think that our process in understanding communities, how communities communicate to each other, and then what needs to be communicated to the creator or the influencer in order to activate that community. I mean, ultimately they understand how to make the best content, but there's definitely some guidance and some framework that I believe that through our process has allowed us to be more successful than what we would be if we didn't have them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because that is marketing 101, right? Like, we can, put the word influencer to the side. And if we just think about marketing, it's really figuring out where our customer is and determining the right strategy to reach them. So, it makes sense that you have to leverage some level of framework to do the same thing in influencer marketing.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I just had a conversation over the weekend with somebody who, is much more focused in like the programmatic space, and is buying media and display and video. And he was asking me like, well, this influencer marketing stuff, like what's happening there? And I kind of tell them like, he's like, well, because he was asking me about micro influencers. Like, I heard it's now all micro influencers. And I sort of told them what you kind of just said, is that like, if you look at marketing over the last 20 years, take influencer out of it, you would use, this is maybe before streaming happened, but you would use television and radio as sort of your broad reach play or your awareness play, top of funnel play, really get as much impressions and as eyeballs as possible so you could really build your top of your funnel. And then you would maybe layer in some other mid and lower funnel tactics that are more focused on driving people all the way through. The same way with influencer marketing, you may hire a Kim Kardashian because you're going to get the most reach and the most eyeballs on the top funnel, but then you might pull in different types of influencers and different types of communities to pull people through the middle and the bottom funnel. So that's the way I'm starting to look at influencer marketing in the future, is really layering in different communities and different sizes of communities to really go through. To your point, it's marketing 101, looking at your funnel and driving people through it.
Yeah, I think, you're spot on. I think I often see this even when we, get briefs around influencer marketing. It's kind of this afterthought. It's this small budget that's kind of tacked on to an overall campaign. And I think, wow, it's really not considered or integrated. And I love that you actually said, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll pick a stage of the funnel. So they'll go, oh, we're just doing this for brand awareness. But I actually love that you said, no, well, we can actually identify each stage of the marketing funnel or the purchase decision and align different influencer groups or different communities to each stage depending on the outcome that we want. That's cool. I've never heard anybody actually say that. That's super cool.
I might have just spilled some of our secret sauce, but that's like literally that's how we look at how we drive results for social impact. Is you have like literally like celebrity level influencers who are deeply passionate about the planet or animals or family matters, adoption, whatever the case may be. You'll want to use them as your top of funnel awareness people. Now they may drive donations and registrations and the things that you like to see in terms of like the bottom funnel, but really they're your mouthpiece. And then as you go down, you can work with more niche communities who are much more engaged around the particular issue or more know the mechanics of it and can articulate why things happen or how things happen within a particular cause to drive people through the funnel. So yeah, that's how we look at really driving results for organizations around social impact.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And what are your thoughts on optimization? So one of the things that we talk about is it's difficult with influencer marketing to get it right the first time. And I think that when you've got a framework that works, you can get pretty close. But if a brand has never done influencer marketing before, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know what type of influencer, what size of influencer, what content's going to convert. So there's a little bit of testing and optimization that I think should, go with it. What are your thoughts on, long-term campaigns when you can actually optimize versus more like one-offs, or what are your kind of thoughts there?
Yeah, so these are what we call like our awareness months. So like, there are causes that will leverage whatever the awareness month is and do a month-long campaign that actually allows us to do almost near real-time optimization in terms of the platforms we use, the messaging that we use, the creators that we use, the entire piece. And so what we'll typically do is we'll front load the first week and a half, first 10 days of that awareness month with about 80% of our budget and 80% of our influencers. And what we typically will find is what platforms resonate. Usually we'll test Instagram and TikTok most of the time. Those are our key platforms. We'll test those two platforms. And we'll test those platforms. We'll test different creatives. We'll definitely test different communities. And we'll really see at the end of those 10 days, which creators actually are driving the outcomes that we want, and the types of the platforms and the types of creative and messaging that we want. And then we'll take maybe the remaining 20% of the budget and apply it either to creators that maybe just did the most amazing job and sort of close out the month, or find creators that sort of have a similar community messaging aesthetic to the winners, and then apply it to the middle to the back half of the month. That's typically what we have done in the past. I mean, a good example is we did it again for the second year, but we worked with a health nonprofit to launch their first sort of like streaming event at the middle of 2021. And we thought that several of the influencers that we brought on were actually going to drive a majority of the results. And then what we found out is that it was like one in particular creator or influencer on one particular platform. And that when he posted content about, it was an athlete, like particularly used content around him playing the game as opposed to the mission that he was supporting, it got like 30x, engagement and results. And so we just doubled and tripled down on him. We said, hey, can you post every day for the next 3 weeks with this type of content on your platform? And it just repeat every week. It was like more page views, more clicks, more registration, all of the KPIs that we wanted. But we saw that in real time, and we would have never known had we not just tracked, his performance and made sure that we're focusing on the right things. I mean, we saved them a ton of money ultimately also, but which ends up being a byproduct of what we do is measuring this. So
yeah, well, and I mean, I think that that's a byproduct of optimization, right? Like it's, I think, people try and lock in all of their influencers, all of their creators at the start and kind of map it all out almost like it's a content strategy. And Yeah, I think it's that ability to actually analyze, reflect, and do more of the things that are working and kind of revisit what's going on in a campaign. That does help save people money. You know, we use the term wastage a lot in advertising, but I feel like we don't want to use it as much in influencer marketing.
Yeah.
It's a similar concept, you know, if you if you know something's not working, scrap it, you know, do something different, but you only get there by analyzing the results, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, that particular nonprofit that we worked with, I mean, they said in the 114 years we've been around, we've never measured a campaign like this. And so I was like, wow,
stop it.
fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad we saved money. So
yeah. And look, it's awesome when you can come in and create that level of impact, right?
Yeah.
100.
So cool. That's what has been the most fun, I think, is saving wastage, increasing impact, and getting this space a little bit more advanced than it ever was. I mean, you could talk to every nonprofit that you know, and they'll probably tell you that they're 15, 20 years behind in marketing. Now, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, COVID made them have to rethink everything.
Yes.
So, you know, this opportunity to really bring opportunities and solutions and visibility and accessibility into a media or a medium that I believe is going to be the future, really. Again, biased, but if we can get there, then I think we can help a lot of people do it.
Yeah, no, that is so amazing. So where have you seen the landscape change? So I know, you know, Kaleidoscope's been around for a couple of years. I know you were looking at influencer marketing well before that. What do you think's changed in the landscape? You know, we've said it on this call, like, you know, the change in language at bare minimum from influencers to creators. You know, what are you seeing going on in the influencer or creator landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the three things that I see across the board, for-profit, nonprofit, everything, is that metrics are and measurement are still like nobody really knows them yet. Some people measure them one way, some people measure like some people don't measure anything. So I think that measurement is still like an ongoing fluid conversation in influencer marketing, which is sort of shocking to me, because that's like, I feel like that should have been table stakes. Like, we're going to invest in this. Like, let's put a framework together. I think there's a lot of associations, like marketing associations, that have put together like blueprints and have everybody, but ultimately, like, it's not followed by everybody, and there's still a lot of different. So I think measurement is something that always changes. The other thing that is interesting is that influencer marketing, I think, still is moving departments. I mean, you had mentioned that people use it as a content strategy, and maybe a lot of the times it lives in the content team of a marketing team. And maybe it should. I don't really know. It depends on the organization, but it has a different home in every brand or every agency.
That's so true.
And so like, and I think that also that also brings the challenge of measurement, because the content team may manage and measure something different than maybe traditional marketing would too. So I'm definitely seeing I'm seeing some consolidation and some uniformity, but it's still everywhere. But I am seeing some change there. And I think the third thing is people are starting to look at influencer marketing like chess instead of checkers, meaning that, like, it used to be, oh, I'm going to give an influencer or creator my product, they'll promote it. It's either going to be a win or a loss, right? It's kind of pretty two-dimensional, pretty straightforward. Now people are thinking, okay, I can use a creator to create content about my product that I'm going to use in other channels. Win number one. Win number two, I'm going to now use them to promote my product. And then win number three is I'm actually going to also use them to do some type of live shopping experience or some type of live on a platform. And then reuse that content in other places. So like, people are really starting to think of like, how can I peel the influencer onion in multiple areas so that I can maximize what's working and what's not, and become more efficient in how I produce creative, how I use creative, and how I, distribute creative. So I'm seeing a lot more of that happen across the board. And I think that's a lot of the reason why, like, the micro influencer conversation is happening, because I just think there's a lot of authentic content that can be created by smaller influencers who are passionate about a product or a cause.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess the cost of a micro influencer can't be ignored as well, especially as you want more deliverables. You know, the thing
Yeah.
that I find is, yeah, if brands are getting savvier and going, yes, I want X number of pieces of content. I want you to come on our own platforms. I would love this.
Yeah.
I would love this. You know, that's obviously many things that the influencer has to do. So, you know, if
Yeah.
you're working with someone with 1 million followers, you're getting, you know, you're really potentially spending your whole budget on one person versus getting a lot of deliverables out of a few influencers. So yeah, I think that it's interesting, the balance that perhaps needs to be struck between, you know, deliverables and price points and sizes of influencers, and something that brands really need to sit down and map out and understand the value of what an influencer provides.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
So
I'm
cool.
excited to see where it goes. You know?
I am too. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today on the Scrunch Creator Economy Show. Your insights and wisdom have been absolutely phenomenal. So could not thank you more for your time.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.